Well, it's that time of year again to revisit all the pieces of crap films that I have seen in 2022. Full disclosure, while I have seen a shit ton of movies this year, I have not seen every single film that came out this year. Don't expect films like Moonfall, Pray for the Devil, or Amsterdam to be on the list since I haven't seen any of those. I'm only going by films this year that I saw. Another disclaimer, if you happen to like any of the films I'm about to list, more power to you. This is all my personal opinion, and I respect yours. In fact, I would love to know what some of your worst films of 2022 are that you saw. Please share your list in the comments down below. With all that out of the way, let's get started. I wasn't a fan of the other two Jurassic World movies, and this film did nothing to change that. It wasn't as insulting as Fallen Kingdom, but that is seriously not saying much. The film misses the entire point of the first film, where dinosaurs cannot coexist with humans. It's the equivalent of living with demons from hell. It's an awful idea. Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt are clearly tired of this franchise. The CGI on the dinosaurs is awful, and the dinosaurs are sidelined in favor of the real threat, Locust. Yes, because I've always wanted to see a Jurassic Park film that focuses on fucking locusts. I'll give the film credit that the legacy actors were trying to make something good out of it. Sadly, the script would not allow for that. After this film, I have no interest in this franchise anymore. I will not be seeing any more Jurassic Park sequels, and this franchise needs to go extinct. Just like the dinosaurs.
Bigger. Why do they always have to go bigger?
I'm pretty sure this film is higher on most people's worst of 2022 list, and honestly, I don't blame them. This was a film I had very little faith in since its announcement back in 2018. I don't know much about the character aside from the Spider-Man Maximum Carnage comic storyline, and after seeing this film, my low expectations were completely justified. This film is an absolute mess. The acting, with the exception of Matt Smith, who was clearly hamming up his performance as the villain, is flat, dull, and uninspired. Most of the actors, including Jared Leto, feel like they're sleepwalking through their performances. Hell, even Jared Leto's version of the Joker in Suicide Squad 2016 was better than this, because at least I could tell he looks like he's having fun there. The post-credits make no sense, the CGI doesn't even look finished, and the action scenes look like cutscenes from a PS2 game. The only reason both this and Dominion are so low on the list is because I never expected them to be good. Granted, some films later on this list I didn't expect to be good either, but those, which you'll see later in the list, were worse than my expectations. After this and two awful Venom movies, I don't care about seeing any more films in this Sony Spider-Man spin-off universe. Somebody needs to drive a stake through this vampire's heart for good. I don't know much about Marilyn Monroe's biography, but if this is considered an accurate depiction of her life, which I heard wasn't, I never want to see another true life movie about her again. This film does the sickening thing about her life by showing us the worst aspects of her life. I'm sorry, but when I see a movie about someone's life, I want to have a balance between their successes and their failures. It feels like it would rather exploit Marilyn Monroe and focus on shock value. This film is just shock value for the sake of shock value, to show things like child abuse, domestic abuse, forced abortions, and even rape.
What?
Yes, you heard that right. Rape. I'm sorry, but rape is something I can't stomach to see in films. Hell, she lets movie producers rape her so she could get a part in a movie. Not to mention, all the male historical figures like Charlie Chaplin's son, Joe DiMaggio, and even President JFK are so unlikable and act like assholes. Hell, there is a scene where Marilyn Monroe is forced to give JFK a blowjob before he rapes her. What kind of sick fuck thinks showing that was a good idea? I will give Ana de Armas did a really good job with her performance as Marilyn Monroe, and it does have some good cinematography, but that's all it has. I feel like after this film, Marilyn Monroe is rolling around in her grave.
Marilyn Monroe only exists on the screen.
Zach, if you're watching this video, I know you love this film, but I'm sorry, it still wasn't for me. I've already discussed this film on the Cool Kids livestream with my friends, so if you want more context, feel free to check out that video. For now, I'll keep it brief. This film was built up to be the grand epic confrontation between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, and it was all a lie. Instead, we are focusing on this character, Corey Cunningham, who killed the kid he was supposed to babysit a year after Halloween Kills. Now, I do like bringing back the idea of having the evil being passed on like they did with the ending of Halloween 4. However, the reason it doesn't work here is, for one, Michael had supposedly died at the end of 4, and I say supposedly because 5 butchered that ending, but that's a different topic for another time, so it made sense for the evil to pass on. However, Michael survives at the end of Halloween Kills, so it doesn't make sense to try the evil has been passed down curse this early. Another reason it doesn't work is that Corey is not an interesting character. At least Jamie was a very interesting character and you want to see her survive. I didn't give two shits about this Corey character, nor did I give a shit about the romance between him and Allison, which, by the way, they don't have any chemistry. I am so glad this Halloween reboot trilogy is done, and I don't have to worry about a sequel here. This Halloween franchise needs to die!
You came here to kill me, so do it.
If you thought the humor in Ragnarok was annoying, this film might turn you off from the MCU altogether. One thing I'm getting sick of in the MCU is all the annoying humor, and Thor Shit and Thunder is MCU's humor at its worst. Do you think Screaming Goat memes from 2010 are funny? Do you think seeing a naked Thor is funny? Do you think that Thor giving his hammer Mjolnir a beer is funny, or the love triangle between Thor, Mjolnir, and Stormbreaker? And I hope your answer is... No! I know humor is subjective, but most of the humor is very stupid. Thor doesn't go through any arc or grow as a character. He's just the same dumb idiot he has been in the past. Also, Korg has officially dethroned Ned Leeds as the Jar Jar Binks of the MCU. Also, what Mjolnir does to Jane's cancer makes no sense. It's supposed to cure her cancer, but by the end it makes her cancer worse and she dies. What? After this, I never want to see Taika Waititi touch another comic book film, period. And if he does, I will never watch it. Fuck him.
I'm not like the other gods of kill. Because I have something worth fighting for.
Okay, so my number 5 pick, I want all my friends to say it with me. Men.
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 Goodwill towards men.
What the hell were you thinking, Alex Garland? Look, I like Ex Machina and Annihilation, but Men was a boring, pretentious piece of shit. It thinks it's being clever with this commentary, yet it has no idea what the fuck it's trying to say. It wants to explore topics like grief, but the message more just comes across as all men are the same disgusting, toxic assholes. By the way, before anyone in the comments says, you just don't get it because you're a man, I got what I was saying. However, just because you understand the message doesn't automatically make it a good one. It also has no idea what it's trying to be. It's not a horror film because the horror, I put in quotes, aspects are so unintentionally hilarious. It's not a female empowerment movie because the main character is scared, weak-minded, and is about as interesting as a wet slice of bread. The symbolism is so obnoxious and just comes across as meaningless. The ending, where a naked man who was stalking the main character around giving birth 4 times, yes, I said that, is just mindfuck bullshit for the sake of mindfuck bullshit, and it doesn't know when to fucking stop. But the worst part of the film is that it is so boring. Despite being labeled as a horror film, literally nothing happens. 80% of the film is our main lead just standing there doing nothing or just walking, and that's it. Nothing else happens. There have been some great A24 films this year. Even some of them are on my best of the year list, but sadly, this is not one of them. Easily A24's worst film to date for me.
Stay away from me.
Why are you doing that?
What are you?
Now, I've already done a review of this film, so you could check out that review if you want more detail on why I hated this film. Let me give the highlights. Yes, the score is well composed, but everything else is a disaster. The writing is a joke, the acting, even from actors who I know can act like Zac Efron, is atrocious, the CGI and effects are terrible, the pacing is making this hour-and-a-half long film feel like 2.5 hours, some of the horror elements are laughable, and it's so boring. There is hardly any Firestarter action at all in this film. Even coming from someone who has never read the book, it still failed to impress me. It is sad we went from one of the best Stephen King adaptations with It Chapter 1 to one of his worst with this. This film seriously needs to burn in a fire itself.
You don't have to be afraid. Please.
I can help you. Liar, liar. Pants on fire. I don't want to hurt anyone, but it feels kind of good.
Funny story, this was actually my #1 worst film of the year for the longest time. That was until several months later, 2 films came along and dethroned this film into the #3 spot. Now, before this film, I've only seen 2 Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. The original 1974 classic, and Texas Chainsaw 3D, which I saw because a friend of mine wanted to see. However, even with my limited knowledge of TCM, this film was still infuriating to sit through. The plot is stupid, where teenagers buy an abandoned town. The characters are so hateable in one note, and I wanted them all to die. The effects and gore scenes are so poorly done, the acting is atrocious, and the dialogue is so cringeworthy.
Try anything and you're canceled, bro.
That's stupid! Really stupid.
This film is also a shameless ripoff of Halloween 2018 without understanding what made that film work. Laurie is an interesting and strong final girl in Halloween. Sally Harstein is not final girl material. She doesn't even do anything in this film except die for no reason, so what was the point of bringing her back? Not only that, but the original actress that played Sally Harstein in the original, Marilyn Burns, died several years ago, so there was no reason to bring this character back. Fun fact, this is one of the 2 movies on the list I saw with some friends and got drunk while watching, and the alcohol didn't do one bit of help. And we'll get to the other film in the #1 spot. After seeing this, I don't give a shit about any future Texas Chainsaw films because no one seems to care, and no one ever will. Just let this franchise die for good! But knowing Hollywood, that's just wishful thinking.
Let him kill you. Fear no evil. Fear no evil.
Try anything and you're canceled, bro.
Oh, fuck.
Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Disney's live-action remakes. to the point where I can only name 3 of them at the top of my head that I actually liked, but even the worst remakes they've done didn't bring me to my boiling point and frustrate me so much like their live-action remake of Pinocchio. The original is not my favorite Disney animated feature, but it's still a great film about self-discipline, understanding right and wrong, listening to your conscience, never giving into temptation, obey what your parents tell you, and never tell lies about your actions. I guess someone at Disney completely forgot to tell somebody about that main ingredient. This Pinocchio is too hesitant and naive and already knows the difference between right and wrong and doesn't want to do anything bad, which destroys the point of Jiminy Cricket and the message of the original film. This could not be more true than the turning point of the film, the Pleasure Island scene, where kids drink root beer and smash clocks. Because I guess it's now illegal for underage kids to drink root beer and break clocks. The acting is atrocious, even from great actors like Tom Hanks and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. The humor is painful.
Too many letters. We need a simple, strong stage name. Slab Oakley. Chad Log? I've got it. Chris Pine. Nah, it'd never work. This isn't funny!
The CGI is so ugly to look at and at times unnecessary. Most of the characters outside of Pinocchio, Geppetto, and Jiminy Cricket don't have much of a purpose, and the ending is such a cheap cop-out. After seeing this film, I will never watch Disney live-action remakes anymore. This was the final nail in the coffin for me. All I have to say is, thank God for Guillermo del Toro for giving us a great Pinocchio film this year. With all this, I will play the clip that I forgot to play in my review that sums up the whole film. Yes, you just saw that correctly. You just saw Pinocchio sniffing shit. Let that sink in.
Pinocchio, be brave.
Truthful. Non-selfish.
You will always be my real boy.
Now, before I get to my number 1 worst film I've seen in 2022, let me give some quick dishonorable mentions. Terrible films that I saw in 2022 that just barely escaped the top 10. And they include, in no order, With all that out of the way, let's jump right into the worst film I saw in 2022. No movie frustrated me or irritated me more than this did. Let me state that I've only seen a few episodes of the Munsters TV show, so my Munsters knowledge is very limited. However, even as mostly a newbie with the Munsters, this film still pissed me off in just terms of a standalone film. With the exception of Daniel Roebuck, who did okay as Grandpa Munster, most of the acting is atrocious from everyone else. Jeff Daniel Phillips did a terrible job portraying Herman Munster, who for some reason sounds like he never went through puberty. Sherry Moon Zombie is not much better. She constantly has a shakiness in her voice and it's annoying. The sets look extremely cheap. It looks like a 15-minute TV special that was only aired at the last minute for $5. Also, before you say, well, the film was capturing the cheapness of the original show, this is not a TV show from the 60s. It's a feature film with a budget, so that's no excuse. Instead of using the black and white aspect to hide the cheapness like Rob Zombie wanted, Universal would rather surround it with bright, flashy colors that makes it look like a deleted scene from Batman and Robin. The jokes are the textbook definition of cringe. This was the other film I was watching with friends and was completely wasted from drinking to all the cringe and unfunny humor.
Open your eyes!
What the fuck am I watching? The pacing is horrendous. This film is only an hour and 47 minutes and it feels like the runtime of Return of the King. And saying that is an insult to Lord of the Rings. However, the biggest reason why this is number 1 on my worst of the year list is because it had no story and no conflict. The first hour is Lily and Herman meeting each other and getting married, and then there's 45 minutes left to go. There is no other story aside from a side plot where a gypsy lady wants to buy Grandpa's house, but that's quickly resolved and goes nowhere. Other than that, nothing happens. It's just padding for the sake of padding. As much as I despise other films on this list like Morbius, Firestarter, and even Disney's live-action Pinocchio remake, at least they have stories and conflicts. Not good ones, but they're still there. Hell, even Men had somewhat of a conflict of a naked man stalking the main character. Yes, it was executed poorly in that film, but it's still there. Rob Zombie has stated he is a massive fan of the Monsters TV show, but you wouldn't know that by watching this, since it seems there's no care or effort put into it. There is absolutely no reason to see this movie. Period. And if you don't believe me, just ask my good friend Devin, who is a fan of Rob Zombie's music and a fan of the Monsters TV show. That says it all. Without a doubt, Rob Zombie's The Munsters is easily the worst film I have seen in 2022.
Greetings from Transylvania! That's a strange way of saying hello.
Oh, I guess we're gonna have to get used to it.
And that is all for the worst films I have seen in 2022. Again, let me know in the comments down below what your least favorite films of 2022 are. Also, stay tuned for when I start rewarding myself by talking about my favorite films of 2022. Until then, have a good day.